Okay, we're going to continue the learning on Sanhedrin. We are on Sanhedrin 23a, in the middle of the passages. A Dolaman, the Gemara says, what purpose does his single witness testify? My mind, if we say it is to testify about monetary matters, Rachamana, Pasle, the first one already disqualifies him, as if by Torah law, the testimony of one witness is not accepted. This is part of a further, longer discussion about whether litigants can nullify a witness, and it teaches that you can nullify a single witness. When there are multiple witnesses, the principle is that we don't nullify them, or that you can't disqualify them. If it is to render the defendant liable to take an oath that he does not owe the money being claimed, in this regard, the testimony of one witness is deemed credible like two witnesses. Yes, so in a case of an oath taking, one witness cannot be disqualified either because he has the credibility of two witnesses. The Torah states that if one witness supports the claim of the claimant, the defendant is required to take an oath that he does not owe the money. When it comes to monetary matters, this particular Gemara concludes, he's still able to disqualify one single witness because that single witness is not strong enough to withstand the disqualification. The testimony of one witness with regard to monetary matters, Eid Achad Lamaiman, the testimony of one witness cannot render the defendant liable to pay. So when it comes to monetary matters, once again, the testimony of one witness with regard to an oath, Eid Achad Mishvua, the case where one claims money or an item from another and the defendant denies the entire claim, if one witness supports the claimant, the defendant is obligated by Torah law to take an oath that he does not owe the claimant what he owes. It's a very particular context where if the defendant denies the entire claim, and there's a distinction made between the entire claim or part of the claim, but the witness support the claimant, not the defendant, then the defendant has to take an oath. The reason why he's compelled to take an oath is because this is considered much more undesirable than stealing. People, especially in the time of the Tannaim, of course before that, before the destructions of the temple, and still, even in Hasidic enclaves of today and Haredi enclaves of today, people don't take oaths lightly because violations of an oath is taking God's name in vain. Much of this translates into secular courts, where before offering testimony, witnesses are asked to swear or to take an oath of truth, of fidelity, and oftentimes on a holy book. So which one came first? Which one is the originator? I would say it's very much likely that that is a formalism from the Judaic tradition. You may find similar cases in other traditions, but I think a much more direct influence can be argued from Jews to Christians, rather than from any pagan religions that doesn't emphasize courts. I'm sure they had courts as an influence. But that remains to be verified by historical evidence. We shall continue. Leilam lemaiman la tsarika de kable ale kve sirei. The Gemara answers, actually, The purpose of the testimony is to testify about monetary matters. And no, one should not raise the challenge, as this ruling is necessary only in a case where the litigant initially accepted upon himself the single witness as equivalent to two witnesses. It's necessary only in a case where the litigant initially accepted upon themselves the single witness. So what we mentioned above is necessary. It's necessary only in a case where the litigant initially accepted upon himself the single witness as equivalent to two witnesses. In which case, that witness won't be able to be nullified. The purpose of the testimony is to testify about monetary matters, and no one should not raise that challenge. Afterwards, he retracted his agreement to accept the single witness's testimony, as if it were that of two witnesses. Rabbi Meir rules that his retraction is valid and the testimony is not accepted. Mai ka mashmalan. The Gemara asks, what is this teaching us? That one can retract this kind of agreement. The Matse Kadar Bey. We learn this in the following Mishnah. If one of the litigants says to the other, Amar Lai, my father is trusted to adjudicate for me, or Naaman is trusted to adjudicate for me, or three cattle herders, Naaman alai avicha, Naamanim alai shleisha bakar, who are not proficient in halacha, are trusted to adjudicate for me, all of whom are legally disqualified from serving as judges. Rabbi Meir says, made the offer can yachal lakaser by. Person who offered it, made the offer, can retract it. By the chachamim oimrim, and the rabbis say, einu yachal lakaser by. You cannot retract it, their verdict. So the Gemara is summarizing what the previous passage was speaking about, and one can retract this kind of agreement, the testimonies. We learn this in the following Mishnah. If one of the litigants says to the other, my father is trusted to adjudicate for me, your father is entrusted to adjudicate for me, or three cattle herders who are not proficient are trusted to adjudicate for me, all of whom are legally disqualified. So one is being more lenient and one is being more strict. And the lenient opinion is taken from a Mishnah who says that the disqualification can happen if the claimant has made these kinds of stipulations before, that usually disqualified witnesses can't serve as witnesses, like a person's relative or people who are not knowledgeable of halakha. Rav Meir says, however, that the one who made the offer can retract it, and the rabbis say that he cannot retract it and must accept their verdict. So there is a difference. Rav Meir seems to hold by the Mishnah, and the rabbis say that he cannot. No dispute is made about whether these stipulations can be made, so we take it for granted that these statements can be made. V'amar Rav Dimi, B'rei d'Rav Nachman, B'rei d'Rav Yosef. Rav Dimi and son of Rav Nachman, son of Rav Yosef, says, this is referring to a case where the litigant accepted one of these people upon himself as one of the judges. Kagoin de Kable Ale Bachad. In addition to two fit judges, since the dispute between Rabbi Meir and the rabbis with regard to a litigant retracting his acceptance of someone who is generally disqualified from judging is stated in the following Mishnah. Why is it stated in this Mishnah as well? So Rav Dimi, son of Rav Nachman, son of Rav Yosef, says, this is where a case where the litigant accepted one of these people upon himself, one of these people, as one of the judges. In addition to two fit judges, since the dispute between Rabbi Meir and rabbis with regard to litigant retracting his acceptance of someone who is generally disqualified from judging is stated in the next Mishnah. Why is it stated in this Mishnah as well? Let's take a look at the notes here. A case where the litigant accepted one of these people upon himself as one of the judges. Kagoin, the Kable, Ale, Bachad. According to some of the Goinim and early commentaries, the statement explains the opinion of Rabbi Meir, emphasizing that the litigant can retract his acceptance of unfit judges, even in a case where there are two additional unfit judges. In addition, in a case where there are two additional fit judges. So he can retract, given that there are two fit judges in addition. Although it is already indicated in this case, in the case of 3 cattle herders, that Rabbi Meir is referring to a case where there are 3 unfit judges. Reb Dimi adds that he can retract his acceptance of the unfit judge, even if the other 2 judges are fit. So Reb Dimi gives a more lenient opinion, that even if the 2 other judges are fit, he can disqualify them. According to other commentaries, Reb Dimi's statement explains the opinion of the rabbis, establishing that in a case where the unfit judge is the only judge, the rabbis concede that the litigant can retract his acceptance. The logic behind the differentiation between a case where there is only the unfit judge and a case where there are other judges as well is explained by the Ran, citing Rabbeinu Ephraim, if an unfit judge is accepted by the litigants instead of 3 fit judges, one of the litigants can later claim that he was exaggerating, and he did not have the full intent to accept him in this manner. Therefore, he can retract his acceptance. Tzaricha. The Gemara answers the statement of both Mishnahs are necessary. The Tana Abba. As had the Mishnah taught this dispute only with regard to the litigants who said, Va'adicha, B'chad, Ka'amrim, Rabbanan, Dala, Matze, Hadar, Bey. Had the Mishnah taught the dispute only with regard to litigant who said, my father is trusted to adjudicate for me, or your father is trusted to adjudicate for me, one might have reason that only in this case did the rabbi say that he cannot retract his acceptance. So in both these cases where he stipulated that the litigant who said that fathers of either side are allowed to adjudicate, in this case, the rabbi said he cannot retract it. Mishum da'abam va'abika zul la'alma aval chad kevei srei da'alma la chazi ema moidei le Rabbi Meir. Because my father and your father are fit to judge for the general public. In a case where a litigant accepts 1 witness as equivalent to 2 witnesses, since 1 witness is someone who is not fit to testify by himself, for the general public, one might say that the rabbis concede to Rabbi Meir that he can retract his acceptance. Therefore, it is necessary for the dispute to be stated with regard to the case in this Mishnah as well. So to understand, my father and your father are fit to judge for the public, but in the case where the litigant accepts 1 witness as equivalent to 2 witnesses, since 1 witness is not fit for the general public, you might think that the rabbis concede to Rabbi Meir that he can indeed retract. Therefore, it is necessary for the dispute to be stated with regard to the case in this Mishnah as well. So this is a bit of a more complicated kind of logic than before. Maybe this will clarify. I don't know if the earlier note helped to clarify. According to some of the Gaonim, some of the early scholars. In early commentaries, this statement explains the opinion of Rabbi Meir, emphasizing that the litigant can retract his acceptance of the unfit judge, even in a case where there are two additional fit judges. Although it is already indicated in the case of 3 cattle herders that Rabbi Meir is referring to a case where there are 3 unfit judges. Rav Dimi adds that he can retract his acceptance of the unfit judge even if the other judges are fit. According to other commentaries, Rav Dimi's statement explains the opinion of the rabbis, establishing that in a case where the unfit judge is the only judge, the rabbis concede that the litigant can retract. So in that case alone, where one witness is the only judge, the rabbis believe that he can retract. The logic behind the differentiation between a case where there is only the unfit judge and a case where there are other judges as well is explained by the Ran. Citing Rabbeinu Ephraim, if an unfit judge is accepted by the litigants instead of 3 fit judges, one of the litigants can later claim he was exaggerating and he did not have full intent to accept him in this manner, therefore he can retract his acceptance